What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Very quickly, Red Dead Redemption 2 spoilers appear to be out there right now online, so be careful. The full trophy list is out there, so people are already talking about spoilers and things that happen later in the game. So if you don't want to be spoiled, I guess be careful on the internet and maybe mute some words on Twitter like Red Dead Redemption 2 spoilers or Red Dead Redemption 2. It's going to be tough because it doesn't come out to the end of this month, and the spoilers are already out there, so, be careful online. Today we have a bunch of stuff to go over. Media Crate sales came out, and Super Mario Party, it did pretty well. We're actually going to go over that, and then a few other things, including some people kind of circumventing the Assassin's Creed experience boost on PC through a bit of a different way, you could say that. So, first, though, let's get into some of the quick news, starting right away with Black Ops 4. It's out this week. Next day or two, it'll be out, and you can play it. The big thing that people really seem to like is the blackout mode. So, when you go and pick it up from the stores, if you buy it physically and you get home and you pop in the disc, maybe don't expect to be playing it right away, as according to their own page with requirements and explanations about what you have to look forward to when it comes to the setup process, there appears to be a 50 gigabyte update file. You're gonna have to download, even if you have the disc, a 50 gigabyte update. Like, it's almost like the game, they put it on the disc, and then they realized they had to change like everything or something, because there's a 50 gigabyte download. According to them, you need over 110 gigabytes kind of a free storage for it to unpack and install, but they seem to be pointing out that the final install size is going to be 55 gigabytes. It's very odd. It just seems like you're gonna need a lot of space, at least open initially. Then you're gonna still download everything. What are we still buying these games physically for anymore? Like, what's even on that disc? The blackout mode? Because apparently when it installs about 30% of the game, you can start playing the blackout mode, but like, why? Like, what happened here in development that all this changed? It's very, very weird. Just know, honestly, it might be better off just downloading the game, because you'll be able to start sooner than if you went to the store, bought the disc, popped the disc in. You're gonna have to install the game, then download 50 gigabytes, then have that install. It's just so weird. So maybe, unless you really want it physically, maybe just download it. Also, Microsoft gave us a bit of an idea as to how good Forza Horizon 4 was doing. I've told you guys, great game, worth checking out. It's on Game Pass, so if you spend $10 for the month, you can go play it for the entire month. Yeah, they told us that 2 million people have played the game, or they've accumulated 2 million players in its first week, which is good, but they didn't really tell us anything else. They didn't tell us about sales or how many people have actually bought it. Sony comes out and is like, over 3 million people have bought God of War in the first few days or something crazy. Same with Spider-Man. Insane numbers. Microsoft's more about engagement. They just don't really care about sales. They don't really want to talk about sales. The only reason we know how poorly it does in Japan, which we're going to talk about here later on, is because Media Crate puts it out there every week along with Famitsu. So if it wasn't for that, then we wouldn't even know how poorly it does in Japan. They just don't want to talk about it. We haven't heard an update on sales in a long time, so they tell us about how many people are playing the games, which is, to be honest, all they really care about. And shocking no one, Yokai Watch 4 has been pushed back to spring of 2019. Originally, it's supposed to come out this winter in Japan. We didn't really know about any time when it was going to show up in the Western audience or anything, but it is being delayed to spring. I'm not shocked at all, not surprised even a little bit. That's a much better spot for it than to come out closer to Pokemon, even if it is Pokemon Let's Go. I get it, it's not the actual Pokemon game, but it's still Pokemon. People are still going to go buy it. Yokai Watch would have had a harder time, I think, coming out, especially if it was coming out like December or something, even January. That's still a little too close. Spring makes a lot more sense. It's level 5, just pushing it back, probably to get out of the way of Pokemon, which was an odd time to try to release it anyway. Makes a ton of sense. Come out in the springtime and then, 2 years later, bring it west. All right, guys, some of the quick news out of the way. Let's jump into some of the bigger stuff, starting right away with the Media Crate sales over in Japan. These, of course, are the week-to-week sales physically in stores going across the retail counter. And as you would expect, Super Mario Party did very well. You're going to see it right here at the top, number one. 142,868, shocking no one. Yes, Mario Party is technically back. That's actually the best it's sold in a while. Much better than Mario Party 10, as we would hope. I should say that. Assassin's Creed Odyssey at number 2, 45,166. That's on the PS4. Warriors Orochi 4 below that. Mega Man 11 released, of course, on the Switch and the PS4, sold better on the Switch, at least in its first week, 14,650. FIFA 19 below that on the PS4. Spider-Man still sticking in the top 10 right there, actually coming up on 300,000 pretty soon. It's sitting right now at 279,000. Then we move down at number 7 to Mega Man 11 on the PS4, 12,052. So it was roughly 2,600 copies less on the PS4 than the Switch. Of course, this could kind of alter and change depending on how things go next week as we go forward, depending on which one continues to sell better. But it looks like, yeah, it was stronger on the Switch in Japan. Legend of Heroes, Trails of Cold Steel 4 is at number 8. Minecraft number 9, and then Splatoon 2 still hanging on to the top 10. Here's a nice little slide here that was provided by Dark Detective over on Reset Era that kind of shows how this Mario Party stacks up to previous Mario Parties. And you can see the Super Mario Party there for the Switch, 142,868. And then you kind of go up to the 3DS. These are in its opening retail debut. This is the largest one since Mario Party 9, of course, on the Wii, which had a very large install size when that came out. Remember, the Wii took off pretty well in Japan, but it wasn't even that far off of there. It was only by about 10,000 units from that one. Mario Party 8, though, was massive. Mario Party DS, again, the Wii had a pretty good install base. The DS had a massive install base. But if you go back to the GameCube ones, it was still much larger than that. So it does look like, yes, Mario Party is back. It absolutely ran over the Wii U versions, as we'd assume. Even the 3DS ones ran over that in its debut week. So congratulations to Super Mario Party. It's good stuff to see that at the top. Even if I think there's still some work they have to do to it, I do recognize it as a much better Mario Party than what we've had in the recent years, right? Since Mario Party 10 was just bad. So yes, much better here. Mega Man 11, another interesting scenario here where it came out on the PS4 and the Switch at the same time, did better on the Switch. Now, of course, we don't always see that right now, where we see other games like the Warriors Orochi did very well on the PS4. So it's not every time, but it does seem like despite the Switch having a smaller install size in Japan, people are still preferring to play on their Switch, and it's not going to be much longer. Pokemon's going to come out, Smash is going to come out, and we're going to see some big jumps from the Switch in the holiday season. With that, let's jump over to hardware with the Nintendo Switch at the top, 45,762. It was only up by less than 3,000 units. I actually thought Super Mario Party would have had more of an effect on system sales for the Switch, but no real big week here for the Switch. It's pretty much status quo at this point. But of course, the Switch has passed 5 million units. I actually did that a few weeks ago, and it's coming up on 5.2 million. So it's less than 2 million total behind the PS4. Speaking of which, 14,065. The PS4 did drop off, and I do think a lot of that has to do with the incoming price drop that's happening October 12th, I believe it is, for the PS4 Pro, because PS4 Pro numbers were actually down. Regular PS4 numbers were about right. So I think a lot of this has to do with people maybe just waiting for the Pro to get a price drop, and we'll see how that affects things in the coming weeks with Media Create. 3DS actually dropped a little bit, 7,396. The Vita sticking in there. I got to give the Vita credit. 2,635. And then a massive jump, by the way, for the Xbox One. No idea what happened here, but 989 systems moved. That is up over 900 units from last week. And ladies and gentlemen, the Xbox One has now passed over 100,000 units. It's currently sitting at 100,359, and you know what that means. One balloon, and it wasn't even the right color. No, it's actually about right. Yeah, I mean, it's a big accomplishment for the Xbox. It's probably the best-selling Blu-ray player in Japan now. I'm just kidding. It's good to see this. It was obviously a milestone we set a while ago as we've done Newswave, so it finally hit 100,000 units. It's not a ton, obviously, when compared to the others, but I mean, it's the Xbox in Japan. What can you expect? It was doomed from the start over in Japan, but there you go, crossed 100,000 units. Everything else was pretty standard. Otherwise, though, no big jump from the Switch. We'll see bigger jumps as we get closer, like I said, in the next month or so when Pokemon comes out. Then we'll see some big numbers. Next up, let's talk about the PlayStation Network, because you'll finally be able to change your name. We talked about this fairly recently, that Kotaku reported that developers were having to go back and make some updates to enable the ability to change your PlayStation name. Of course, it wasn't as easy, and there are some drawbacks to that because there's a catch to this whole thing. Yes, soon enough you'll be able to do that. All they've said so far is soon. The first change is free. Otherwise, it'll be $9.99 unless you're a PlayStation Plus member, in which case it'll be $4.99 or $5. And at that point, you can change, but you got to pay whenever you want to change your name. But at least the first one is free. Microsoft did the same thing with that, except I think this is actually cheaper if you're a PlayStation Plus member than Microsoft's if you're an Xbox Live Gold member. But then there's also a catch when it comes to the date. So, games published after a certain time will actually be affected by this, and then, as they say, larger, big-name games on the PlayStation 4 will also be affected, but others won't, apparently, with the name change. They detailed this on their blog post where they specifically put out the date April 1st, 2018. So it'll be compatible with games that were published after that date, but before, unless it's a majority of the most played PS4 games, it's not going to work. I don't really know how that's going to happen. Apparently you can choose what name you want, whether it's your old one to be displayed or you want your new one to be displayed so people recognize you still, but it's something. You know, it's happening. People can change their name. It sounds like a joke, right, as a feature update, but yeah, they've wanted it. PlayStation fans have wanted this forever now. Remember, they talked about it at the last, the PlayStation Experience where they joked about it there. There you go. You'll be able to change your name, according to them, soon. So get ready for it. Next up, let's talk about Assassin's Creed Odyssey. If you've missed it, the microtransactions, well, there's been a lot of argument, a lot of frustration, a lot of criticism around Assassin's Creed for the experience boost in particular, but that game is riddled with microtransactions. It is a one-button shortcut to get to the store. If you pause the game, press right on the D-pad, and bam, there's a ton of stuff to go shopping and buy. As long as you trade some money in and buy some of the Helix credits, it's their play money that you convert your money to, so you never actually see real dollar amounts. That's a whole thing on its own, but experience boost was a thing. You get a permanent experience boost if you throw $10 at the game after the 60 that you originally paid for it. Well, PC gamers aren't having it because they introduced a trainer that will let them go in and do the experience boost on their own. In fact, they can outright break the game by putting a ton of experience and a ton of crafting materials, and basically it's a cheat device that lets them go and edit values, and boom, they're max level. You know, they go hit one thing or destroy one enemy, and boom, they hit the max level. They don't have to pay $10 for that experience boost. It's kind of funny, but what did you expect? What did Ubisoft think was going to happen here, right, when PC gamers saw this? You think they're going to pay $10 for that when they can start editing the game? They had to know this is going to happen. I'll be curious if there's a patch for it or something, but most of these people on PC probably aren't going to update it, or maybe they've just pirated the software. I don't know, but it's really funny to see that, and yes, it just goes to show people, they don't like microtransactions to the point where they're willing to modify and break the game if they need to, so they don't have to use it. And our last bit of news, if you did not go to your NES application on your Switch, you may have missed that there were new games added to it. Of course, Dodgeball, Solomon's Key, we went over these. But one game in particular that I kept pointing out on that list was the Zelda SP, the Legend of Zelda SP. I was like, what is that? It appears that it's a special version of Zelda, and it changes a lot of stuff. It seems to make the game easier if I was just looking at it at face value. Apparently they changed some stuff around. You get rupees to start with. But let's actually go over, I guess, what you start with and I guess some of the changes. It seems they've even moved some stuff around and tried to make it a little more cut and dry as to what you're supposed to do. Of course, Zelda, Legend of Zelda NES drops you in, and they just expect you to go figure everything out. Maybe not the best now where there is a lot of hand-holding in games. So, what do you get when you first start the game up? Well, you start off right away with the stronger white sword, the magical shield, the blue ring, the power bracelet, the blue candle, a red potion, a piece of meat, and 3 extra heart containers, and you also get a full bag of rupees, bombs, and keys. Basically, they just give you everything. It's like, here, you got everything you need, run out into the field and start killing stuff and start defeating some of the dungeons and everything. I also noticed that people were pointing out that when you beat it, there is a harder mode, a second quest. People were pointing that out. Maybe that's part. Nah, it's always been there. you beat Zelda and you can go back through and they move stuff around. It's always been like that I've ever seen. I mean, I played it back in the day and I remember beating it and going back through it with the second quest where everything was moved around. So that's not new, but the ability to run through with the white sword and the shield and rupees and all kinds of stuff right from the start, and they even kind of give you text hints as to where to go. Yeah, it's all new, but that's just kind of the generation of gamers now, right? They're trying to adapt it, and I'm fine with that. There are some other SPs, I think, coming up. I think there's like a Mario one and a Metroid, and I'm curious what changes they're making to that to make them easier or more interesting or different. It's kind of neat. I would go check it out because it's just a different experience with Zelda. Sure, it's basically a save game hack or a ROM hack, but it's kind of neat to see. And hey, I mean, if you already have the online, you might as well go check it out. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, guys. Really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's the Media Create sales with Super Mario Party at the top. Is that surprising to you because maybe you didn't like it, or maybe you really like the game and you completely get why it's selling well? Personally, it's Mario Party, it's on the Switch, it's in Japan. Yeah, it's going to do well. What about Black Ops 4's large update file size? I had some conversations with people, and a lot of people are seeing this as, you know what, these developers got to figure this out because this is poor optimization, it's all over the place. Let me know what you think about that as well down below. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.